Using that, I have a lot to get through. There was a ton of content in this demo. It's a 20-minute gameplay demo, but I played it twice and did completely different things each time. The leash kind of came off, so to speak. They let you access things like the skill menu, the inventory. So I dove into all of it, and hopefully I'll inform you on exactly what I played. Let's start at the beginning. The playable classes. You can choose the Barbarian, the Sorceress, or the Druid. There's some skills like Frenzy that require you to dual wield. There's some skills like Skewer that require you to have the Druid. The Druid is really interesting because every time you use an ability, you shapeshift. So if you use a resource generator, like the Druid's resource is Spirit, you shapeshift into a werewolf. You use the Spender Pulverize, a big AoE ground slam. You use that Fury, or that Spirit, and then you turn into a bear. And that came in really handy when I got this really cool staff called Power Stone that we probably don't have any B-roll of, but I'm going to talk about anyway. Every single time that you shapeshift, a bolt of lightning comes down and hits an enemy. So that fundamentally changed the way that I was thinking about playing this game. So you start in this cave, you're killing skeletons, classic Diablo stuff, desaturated, realistic looking graphics, not nearly as cartoony as something like Diablo 3. You go through the cave and you crawl through this crawl space and emerge in the world, and notably that crawl space is its own cinematic with your character's face. In 2019, the fidelity is such that you don't need a different cutscene to be able to see your character up close and personal. Now, once you're out of that crawl space in this demo, you go into, maybe most exciting in the entire demo, a shared world space. So for those of you who played Destiny, this is something very akin to that. There are going to be other players running by you emergently. You can invite them to a party. You don't have to be in a party to do the same stuff and to phase into their world. You'll just see a druid running along as a bear, or a sorceress freezing some skeletons, and you can decide to adventure with them or not. There are a lot of different activities to do in the world. There are public events and public bosses. There's a main quest line you can partake in the demo, which has you going to a town where you can't use any abilities, and it's conventional Diablo town stuff, and then you follow kind of a very conventional chain into an instanced, meaning that the only people you take in your party, or the only ones you're going to see in there, cave that ends with this really epic boss fight against a drowned witch with a lot of telegraphs and cool loot and stuff like that. So this crazy undead dragon thing that I couldn't defeat in the time that I had. So you basically wait around, kind of like Warhammer Online, if you ever played that, public events, very similar to that. It'll give you a timer, you kind of attune to a stone, and then it'll give you a timer saying the boss will spawn in 5 minutes. It kind of gets everybody around, gives everybody an alert, a la Destiny 2 public event, and then you try and kill the boss. Bosses, notably, are very mechanically rich. There's a lot of dodging. As a character of any class, you can hit space to dodge. When that meter is filled, there's a stun phase, and you get to do a bunch of damage and stuff like that. I was also able to access the inventory of the character and simplify from the stats of Diablo 3 and previous Diablos. So far, what I've been able to get is all attack, defense, and life. Very simple, very straightforward. Seems class agnostic. You can pick that stuff up, but obviously there is still stuff like that Thunderstone legendary I was discussing that is very, very good for the druid. There's also other modifiers, and the loot common, uncommon, rare, all the way up to legendary is still definitely intact. So my first impression of loot, even though a lot of the drops were up, if you play Diablo 3, you know all about that. You get Fury generation, you actually get a Berserker passive buff now that there's a lot more to play, but this feels like a 2019 evolution. This is the kind of stuff that Path of Exile is doing, that Torchlight Frontiers are doing. This is the space